meeting to order. Young County Commissioners Court in a regular meeting Monday, April 14th, 2014. It is 9:35 a.m. by 9 o'clock. If it's convenient, we'll all stand. We have an invocation and a pledge. I believe
Let us pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and thank you for this gathering. Thank you for the rights and privileges of living in this wonderful country. We pray for our leaders everywhere, including this county, Washington, D.C., and everywhere in between. We thank you for just the pleasure of living in this wonderful state of Texas and everything that it means to all of us. Thank you for the promise of rain. Bring it on. We surely need it. We are very dry. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much for this meeting. Make you note that all the court are present. Item number 3, public comments, announcements, presentation. These are non-action items. Bring the court's attention to a refund that we got from the Young County Correctional District. I believe that's the only time that I can recall that ever happening. This was for budgeted expenditures that they did not expend. Budget excess for the 2012 year. That was $27,858. I think you all have a schedule there. I think all taxing entities were refunded to some degree or another.
That's in school.
The what? That's still school. We also have in there a letter from the Workers' Compensation Pool, FY13 reimbursement tax, Workers' Compensation Pool, $3,020. I guess that would be because we're so safe.
Yes, every year we do an estimated, and so we go by all the salaries and of course y'all don't sometimes you know all the part-time and everything, so there's a little bit that we don't spend in the budget, and so they refund us what we don't have an actual salary.
Is there anything else, another announcement or?
What about all that access stuff we got down here? Basement, the car over there, walking bathrooms.
Well,
Are they even have somebody or?
we use a piece of it once in a while. Just moved one cabinet into the county attorney's cubby hole, I guess you would say, down here by the VSO where they store records. I think there's probably an application in the boiler room for the shelves. No, there's not any specific plan, or nobody has any requests for any of those items that I know of at the time.
The only thing I'm concerned about is when they have kids up there when they're in middle probation time, they get that fire and one of them falls, going over all of them, or what about it. So, something of that nature. I just think it'd be, and also it'd be something that would give it a little bit nice to do that if we walked in. That's what I'm thinking.
I like that place to put the pump, but we,
While we've opened that discussion up also, I'd like to maybe start leaning toward doing some thinking about disposing of some of that machinery in that basement storage room. That heavy pig iron that's been in there for a while. Is there any of that that can be removed and hauled out of there?
we were talking about the air conditioner compressor.
Yes, sir.
And it's ready to go, all the holes are taken out.
We just need to see about getting it bid out, cut up, taken off, out that room to work as a storage room for Larry and his crew. Set that as a agenda item down the way to talk about.
Very well. Anything else? And item number 4, minutes for previous meeting, March 24th, 2014. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? I'll second that. We have a motion by Commissioner Wiley and a second by Commissioner Sipes to approve the minutes as presented. That's the minutes of March 24th. All in favor? Carried. 5-0. Okay. Consider update on security pledge.
$739,207.84 for the pledge.
I'll take that as a motion.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wiley, second by Commissioner Rogers to approve the security pledges as presented. All in favor? Carried. Consider auditor's budget amendments.
I have a request from the county attorney, I think y'all have a copy in your packets. He, in his part-time, now on his part-time, this is his part-time person that's in there and working just for him, not hot. If she's doing hot check, we take it out of different lines. We had budgeted $3,600 in there right now, and it's $731 negative at this time.
730.
$731.25. And so, Mr. Miller is requesting to move money out of these other budget lines into that part-time line. Now, if she works for hot check and any of it comes out there, he reimburses that out of his chop check fund. But this is just for other than hot check.
Okay, so he's requesting these line items be transferred to his part-time.
To his part-time salary, and I told him I can't move money in or out of salary without.
Weren't these all budgeted?
Well, yes, all of these were, yes.
So we under budgeted on part-time?
I guess it was only $3,600 in there.
Mr. Miller, have you been using a little extra part-time than what you thought you might be using?
Yeah, we had one change. The new discovery rules that went into effect last September. We've had to go to scanning in all of everything that comes in, reports, statements, and so forth. Scan them in at the front whenever they come in. So we've got them on the computer so we can comply with the discovery rules. And instead of her just working, scanning the completed files after the files are closed. And so she's been trying to do both as well as hot check. And we've had a little increase in number of cases. New cases filed in 2011 was 348, and last year was 504, which is about a 44% increase, almost 45%.
Same year-to-date period? Same year-to-date period?
Yes, calendar year.
Okay.
Calendar year. And cases disposed of, we went from 573 in 2011 to 717. Last year, 2013, we had cases reactivated, we're up almost 50%.
So you say this increased activity is what caused that part-time line?
Reactivated cases is where somebody's been out in the wind with the warrant out for them, and they get arrested somewhere and come back where we can deal with them. Then their case gets back on the active list.
But But those things aren't new to this county. I mean, they happen every year, don't they?
Since we've had a substantial increase.
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
And, motions to revoke probation has gone from 94, in 2011 to 165 last year.
Mhm.
All of those things take time, and now we have to scan them in front at the beginning. They get scanned in, the reports are get scanned in before even I review them to make a file or no file decision.
So you've exceeded the capacity that normally you operate at part-time set
Yeah,
positions.
it's either alive.
Can you manage the rest of the year with taking this money out of these other budgeted line items that you budgeted for this?
Yeah, I would ordinarily would go to the District County Attorney Association meeting in September, and I'll pass that. I had budgeted to do that, pass that. Being able to comply with the new discovery rules is more important.
Okay.
And before we started about the budget last year, they talked about that, but we didn't really know what it was gonna be, and I think we doubled part-time last year from the year before, or something like that, because we knew it was gonna be an increase. We just didn't know how much increase, or how much the number of cases would increase.
Good.
It's a-
Okay, I'm just mentioning because we're coming up on budget time with the budget kind of askew in your office. I just want to make sure we all understood
Yeah.
where that situation is coming from as we make the budget for the next year.
Yeah.
Are you required for X amount of education hours?
What?
Are you required for X number of hours in a calendar year to have continued education hours?
CE.
Oh, look, I'm too old to learn the thing to do, so I don't have to do continuing education.
He's exempt. Anything you need to have? Anything you need to have? Anything else? Okay. I'll entertain some kind of motion there. So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Pruitt, second by Commissioner Sykes to allow the line item transfers as requested by the county attorney. Is that $3,275? Is that correct?
I think so.
From various lines moved into the part-time.
3275.
Yep. 32.7. All. You got some more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I would like to know technically how that's going to look on the budget. Are these lines going to look like they were underspent and the other line? Okay.
Whenever I move the money, you have your original amount that it originally was, and then you'll have your amended amount beside it, and it'll show. But then the bottom line will still be the same.
Thank you, just a technical question.
Okay, 7, consider payment of vouchers.
Okay, while I'm here, total amount of vouchers today is $206,077.91. Of that, $132,792.45 is out of the general.
So,
I'll second that.
Roger, we can do that.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Wiley and second from Commissioner Rogers to approve the vouchers payable as presented. All in favor? Carried. Employee bonds, we have one for the Young County Clerk. No, Young County Attorney Clerk, Judy K. Crawford. Deputy Tax Collector, Carolyn Honeywell. Justice of the Peace, Clerk 3, David Sandlin. That's all. So moved.
second.
Motion by Commissioner Pruitt, second by Commissioner Wiley to approve the employee bonds as presented. All in favor? Carried.
Question there, why are we using two different bonding companies? Do we not use the same one all the time, or
No.
who makes that decision?
Well, it's always been over at Alney, they used that other one. Here we use Bryan Insurance, but
Same county?
yeah, they've always gotten the bond over there. I think it's the same price and everything.
Just wondering.
Item number 9, consider extension agent Brad Morrison, Penny Warren, a report requesting reimbursement of Brad Morrison at $750 and Penny Morrison $563.36.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wiley, second by Commissioner Wright to approve the request for reimbursement from Brad Morrison and Penny Warren. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 10, Vince Vial is Specialized Public Finance and David Mendez with Big Staff LLC. And this is an item that has to do with refunding or refinancing of the bond debt that we have on our current county statement. I think both of these individuals worked on the original sale of those bonds. I'm going to turn the meeting over to them.
All right, thank you, Judge. Commissioners, for the record, my name is Vince D.L. with Specialized Public Finance. A little history, we did work on the Series 2006 CO issue for the county, so we do have some experience with the county. What we're talking about this morning, what we're presenting to the court for your consideration is a potential refinancing of that Series 2006 issue. The only reason that we're looking at doing this is trying to lower the interest rate on that 06 issue by refinancing it and trying to achieve some debt service savings for the county by doing that. Any savings numbers that we talk about in this presentation or anytime in the future on this refinancing are going to be net savings to the county after all costs are paid for from the issue. So we're talking net savings to the county in any presentation that we move forward with. What I've handed out is some information related to the parameters order, and I might briefly touch on that. What we're considering this morning is it's called a parameters order. And what that means basically, it's setting a minimum or a floor of savings that the county would be acceptable as far as moving forward with the refinancing. So if the court were to approve that parameters order, we would have to achieve that level of savings or better before we could bring it back for execution by the county. So it's setting us a minimum bar to exceed before we can effect that transaction if we approve that parameters order this morning. So moving, and I want to answer any questions y'all have, so if y'all have any questions, please speak up while I'm talking. Talking about the numbers in relation to the refinancing itself, if I could get y'all to turn to page 1 of the presentation I just handed out, and the pages are numbered in the bottom right-hand corner. This is an overview of the refunding opportunity that we're trying to achieve for the county. Now, we've been following this issue for the county for probably about a year and a half, monitoring the marketplace and just seeing where rates are and at what time it might be advantageous for us to look at refinancing that 06 issue. If we look at the bottom tables on the bottom of page 1, you'll see where we are right now in the marketplace. What we're trying to do on the refunded bonds, that's the Series 06 CO issue, the Series 2006. We're looking at refinancing the maturities that occurred between 2017 and 2023 on that 06 issue. The interest rates on those maturities are 4 to 5% interest rate on those COs. And the amount outstanding is a little more than $4.9 million. The call feature, or the time that we can pay those things off, is in 2016, February 15th of 2016. Now, what we're looking at trying to do here is, if you look at the box on the right side, this would be the savings to the county if we were to actually do this transaction right now in today's marketplace. We'd be able to achieve about $200,000 in net savings to the county by doing this over the life. That comes out to about, give or take, $22,000, $23,000 a year. in savings for the county. Again, net savings for the county. We're not extending the maturities. And what we're looking at in this case is taking that interest rate on the existing 06 COs down to a new interest rate of 2.1%. So the difference between the 4 to 5% interest rate on the 06 issue to the 2.1% that we could achieve in the marketplace right now, that's where we get our savings. And that's where we get that $200,000 over the life, about $23,000 a year, give or take. It's just like refinancing a house mortgage at a lower interest rate. So that's what we're trying to do by doing this. Again, and these are net savings for the county. On page, yes, sir.
One realistic.
Very much so. I've actually got a little bit of fudge factor built into that. Because one of the things I want to bring to y'all is I don't want to bring y'all a transaction that is right on the marketplace. I want to have some fudge factor built into it. So hopefully I can achieve this or better sometime in the near future.
Are we going to be penalized? Do we have to pay that arbitrage?
The negative arbitrage is already calculated into the savings number. And let me tell y'all, you might ask your question because it's going to be a pretty lengthy, it's a great question, but it's going to be a lengthy explanation. Okay. All right. If y'all recall, I said earlier on that Series 2006 CO issue, the call date occurs in 2016. So in 2016, that's when we can pay off the 2017 through 2023 maturities of that 06 issue. That's when they're being able to pay it off. All right, so if we wanted to issue refunding bonds today and take advantage of the lower interest rates today in the marketplace, how do we do that? Well, what we do is we sell refunding bonds at the 2.1%. We take the proceeds, all the money from that refunding bond issue that we just sold, and we invest those in government securities. And these are government securities that are issued by the feds for the specific purpose of putting into escrow accounts to pay off bonds. They're called slugs, state and local government series. So we take the refunding bonds, we structure an escrow account with these government obligations. And this escrow account is structured in a manner to where it pays all the debt service on the refunded 06 COs until the call date occurs in 2016. When that call date occurs in 2016, then that escrow account calls in the bonds and pays them off. So once we fund that escrow account, the old bonds go off of your books. They're no longer your liability. They become a liability of the escrow account. Okay, so now what's this negative arbitrage that we're talking about? Since interest rates are so low right now, and we're issuing these refunding bonds at 2.1%, yet we're still having to pay 4 to 5% on the 06 COs until 2016 when we can pay them off. We've got some negative interest earnings in that escrow. That's called negative arbitrage. Okay? In a perfect world, our escrow account would be making as much money, interest earnings, as it's paying out on the refunded obligations. Well, that ain't the case because rates are so low. So we have to deal with this negative arbitrage. Because rates are so low, we can only get so much of an investment out of our escrow account. So we have this negative arbitrage that we're having to include in our calculations. And in this case, the negative arbitrage, again, is on page 1. On the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see from the second to the bottom line, negative arbitrage in the escrow, $138,000. Well, we're $138,000 negative in our escrow account when we deposit and structure that to pay off the 06 issue. Now that $138,000 is already included. Again, we're talking net savings numbers. That's already taken into account on the $200,000 net savings for the county.
So you're not subtracting the 203 from the 138?
No,
It's 203.
It's already been factored in.
Yeah.
It's already been factored in. In the perfect world, if we were able to break even on our escrow account and had zero negative arbitrage, then our savings would be $308,000.
Okay.
See, so that's what the negative arbitrage, it's hurting our savings, that negative arbitrage is, because we just can't make enough in that escrow account compared to what we're paying on the 06 bonds that we refunded until 2016. Yes, sir.
Just a point of information here. The figures that are in our packet have changed since this presentation here?
Yes, sir.
What's changed?
It's the market.
Explain.
It's the market. These are times to market. The market is fluid. It changes every minute. It's an active marketplace. So what we do is, if we get the green light from the courts to say, this is our minimum level of savings that we're going to accept, go forward and see what you can do sometime in the future, see if you can maximize our savings. We monitor the marketplace. And we look and we say, okay, we think this is going to be the maximum savings scenario that we can get for Young County. So then we'll call the judge up, we'll call Cheryl up and say, Judge, Cheryl, we think it's time to go. Here's our savings. Do y'all want to go? And if y'all approve the parameters ordinance, we're designating the judge and Cheryl as the people that will sign off at the time that we get this thing effective. Now, we have to meet or exceed our minimum level of savings in this order.
So what we're doing here is setting the parameters for the judge to make the decision.
Exactly.
On that.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
When were these numbers sent to the county for?
Give me some help, because we've looked at this for over a year, and we've sent numbers.
This number in our packet today, this right here, was that from last
Just
year?
what he just handed out.
No.
Oh, yeah, that was,
The one on the agenda,
yeah, that was from last month, March 13th.
could have been March.
The one you
Is
brought
that the
by.
one
So
we
March
marked?
on that?
Yeah, I gave him the copy of the one you brought by.
Yeah, we just did this for Stevens County, and we pulled the trigger on one, and I brought some information to Cheryl at that time, so that.
I investigate that fluidity which you're talking about.
Sir?
I'm only asking to monitor that fluidity that you're talking about, so from
I think
then
it's
till
March
now,
24th.
it's changed that much.
Was it? Yeah, and it does, it changes day
Yeah,
to
it's a
day.
difference in 53 and 56%.
The latest one that I had here was April the 18th.
Okay. And Commissioner, a good way to see this is the last page of this on page 3. This is a graph that illustrates tax exempt interest rates in the marketplace for the last 15 years. So you can see how they're bouncing around. And they're trending down right now. But we do know that the Federal Reserve has come out in the last month. And what they're targeting as far as interest rates, they're looking at trying to increase interest rates in about 2015. So we know, according to the Fed, that rates have a very high probability they're going to start trending up sometime in 2015. Right now, we're seeing them trend down, but we know they're going to be going up eventually.
November election's going to determine some of that.
It very well could.
Right now, we're seeing a good trend going down.
We're seeing a trend going down right now. Again, it's a very fluid situation. It's something that we monitor constantly, but we are seeing a trend down right now.
So we set that at 2%.
If I could get you to go back, I'm sorry I'm bouncing around, I apologize for that. Go back to page 2. These are our parameters that we're looking at this morning. A net present value savings. Now what that net present value savings translates to, of 3%, that gets us to that basically $200,000 savings level, amount-wise, dollar-wise. We're looking at a maximum interest rate on the refunding bonds not to exceed 2.65%.
2.65.
We're looking at a maximum maturity of February 15th, 2023. That is the same maturity on the 06 issue. So we're not extending maturities by doing this refinancing.
Okay, would you suggest that we pay the same amount of money that we're currently paying? Maybe shave a year off? Or would you adjust it?
In my opinion, I would adjust it. I would take the savings and pass that on. Because here's what's going to be happening. If we can lock this lower interest rate in, we know that in the future, interest rates are going to be going higher. So at some point down the road, be it a year, 2 years, 3 years, the interest rates in the marketplace are going to be a lot higher than what you're paying on this refunding bond issue.
So you're saying this interest rate that we're fixing to do is not going to be locked in?
It will be locked in. It will be locked in until the final payment. So whenever we bring you all this transaction for final consideration and approval, it will be a fixed rate transaction.
Other than what we have right now?
Correct. What you've got right now is the 06 issue. Right. If we do the refunding issue with the savings, When we bring that, that's gonna be a fixed issue. And that will take the place of the 06 issue.
My opinion, Mr. Wiley, is the same, like it's the same. We use that savings to put downward pressure on our tax rate and our budget to give some relief there, because we all know there's gonna be pressures elsewhere in the budget to move it upwards. And so this is gonna be some extra skin in the game that we could use to cover some of those other expenses that we hope we don't have, but inevitably do. So anytime we can save the money, I think we need to pass it right along to the taxpayer.
I think it's a very good analogy, and bottom line, what it translates down to in a financial scenario is we're gonna be paying 2% on this refunding bond issue. And at that time, 2 or 3 years down the road, the rates in the marketplace are gonna be somewhere 4, 5, 6, or even north of that. So we're gonna be paying a low interest rate on our debt, and hopefully by then, we'll be getting some return on our money with the county, our deposits. So
You think this maximum interest rate of 2.65 is a little high?
I think it is a hair high. If the court wanted to trim that some,
Illustrated 2.1.
exactly. If the court wanted to trim that some, I have no problem with this. But let me tell you the bottom line on this. If I cannot achieve this or better, I'm not coming back.
We don't need you to.
This is my bogey right here. This is my bogey, because I'm not going to show you something and not be able to meet or exceed that.
You made an interesting statement in your opening comments about experience with the county.
Yes, sir.
What does that count for in your head?
I have taken the county through credit rating process with Standard & Poor's. I'm familiar with your finances, obviously. We did have some pretty good issues that we worked through back in 06 to get these things done. So I am familiar with the county. I know how the county works. Plus, I've got some loyalty to the county, having gone through that process. Yes, sir.
Your fees charged to us, are they pretty well standard?
They are standard, and they are contingent fees. And what they are contingent upon, mine and David's and everybody else involved in this process, we make certain of them. They're all contingent fees. They're contingent upon us giving y'all the transaction that y'all accept, and then funding that transaction, and the transaction closes. So nobody gets paid until the transaction closes. They're all contingent fees.
Y'all's fees are really based on the dollar amount, not percentage.
It's a dollar amount of what we issue. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We've got the cost of issuance calculated in this transaction.
The law firm gets X amount on the first million, correct?
Correct.
$100 on another million after that.
It's basically, David can speak to, and David is with Bickerstaff Heath, Lagos Costa. He was bond counsel with us back on the 06 issue as well. Bickerstaff probably represents 4 counties and any other firm in the state. They basically work the same way. For the first $1 million, we've got a base fee, and then it's a per thousand above that.
Dollars per thousand.
Yes.
Dollars per thousand.
Yes.
And so the only other costs that would be associated with the transaction are the Attorney General's review fee. Once a transaction is authorized by the county, it is submitted to the Attorney General and Controller for review and finalization. So they have an underlying fee that goes there, and then we file a tax return on behalf of the county with the IRS to let them know about the tax-free interest and all that.
Also, there's another fee involved, which is not a huge fee, but it's about $2,500 to a major nationally recognized accounting firm. From Cheryl's standpoint, one of the things that we require on these refundings is that we have this accounting firm verify our escrow structure. So whenever we do this issue, we will submit the escrow securities and the old refunded bonds, all this information to that major accounting firm. They will double check our calculations, and they will give y'all a written verification report signing off on the fact that we do have that escrow funded in a manner, time-wise and sufficient-wise to pay off and to fees the old refunded bonds. So we've got that verification report to hang our hat on. It's not just our numbers.
One question about our audit, our annual audit next, we need to have that accomplished prior to sale of this.
Ideally, that would be nice if we had the audit.
I'm looking at probably July before it comes to the court.
Okay, all right. It's going to be kind of a 6 of one, half a dozen of another. If I see the market move sometime before July that I think we need to capitalize on it, I want to see if I can get it done. If the market doesn't move a whole lot between now and July, then yeah, we'll wait for the audit. But I don't want to miss an opportunity if we can do something good for the county.
In your experience, what do you think our time horizon is right now if we gave you the go-ahead?
Wide open. Wide open. I can't tell you where the marketplace is going to be tomorrow.
It's good to be really rich.
As much as I enjoy y'all's company, I probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way, if it was stable and stayed like it is today, how long does it take to accomplish what you're attempting to accomplish?
From scratch, it would take me probably about 2 to 3 weeks to get in the marketplace and get it done. And so that's my minimum window.
That's with us having everything completed to you that you need.
Right, and then it'll take about a month to get it to the Attorney General's office.
And that's the closing. But where the interest rates are set is when we get everything teed up, get the rating confirmed on the county, and get that in the marketplace and get a transaction negotiated and set, and then bring that back. Because whenever we bring a transaction back, that rate is going to be set. And it's going to be, you're going to say, yeah, we like it, or no, we don't. And that's going to be your decision.
So we nail it down the day that we.
You nail it down then. Then once you approve that, then David takes over and gets the AG approval, and we close the transaction.
And in fact, the order that you're approving today, if you decide to go forward with this, lays out all those elements so that once you delegate the authority to trigger the purchase to, in this case, I think we've listed the county judge and county auditor as folks.
Yep.
They, with the assistance of your financial advisor, will trigger the sale, and then the creation of all the accounts, the purchase of the slugs, all that is then triggered by that action.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so if you look like on page 5 and section 5 of your order that was circulated, you'll see mirrored in there all of the parameters that Vince has laid out in his presentation today. If you choose to amend any of those, they can be incorporated into that order. But basically, it is the blueprint, the game plan, if you will, that the court's authorized so that when the judge or the auditor triggers a transaction, everything's in place.
Vince, do we continue to pay the payment to Becky New York Mellon regardless of who has the escrow, or will you change that?
With y'all's permission, I'm going to change that because Boney, Bank of New York, has gone up from $350 to $750 on their paying agent registrar fees. So I'm going to change that. U.S. Bank will do it for $250. So I'm going to use U.S. Bank instead of Boney.
And if there was in between, you would let us know who
Yes, ma'am.
would pay our payment.
Yes, ma'am. And you'll get a new payment schedule on the refunding bonds. Since we're not refunding all of the 06, we'll adjust your payment schedule on the non-refunded 06 bonds, so you'll know exactly what your payments are on everything, who they're going to.
That's what we talked about, we budget have to work, because we didn't get the notice.
We don't want to pay those fees. I'm rolling a lot of my clients away from Boney right now.
Now, Vince, if you're pretty sure about these interest rates, I know our constituents tend to want us to try to get them the best deal, because that's what we're here for.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way we can move the interest rate to 2.4 rather than 2.65?
You tell me 2.4, that's a motion as far as the court goes, that's what it'll be. Again, we serve at the pleasure of the court.
10 cents hot lower than me, I'm gonna do that.
That tells me you've got a lot of confidence in what you can do, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
I like it.
I don't know if I sent you a Christmas present.
A lot can happen between now and Christmas.
There you go.
So I can make him cocky and he knows he can do it. That's what I like.
I'm not going to hurt you.
Yeah, don't hurt.
Yeah, I can't help you. I'm not coming back.
But you know, if we're sitting here looking at 2.1 illustrations and we go to the 2.65, we're opening ourselves up for criticism out there also. Our job is to keep budgets
And we will,
appearance-wise, because we know that it's probably going to be lower than that. But
Yes, sir.
if we shoot 2.4 over, we're looking more like 2.10, 2.15.
Yeah.
Which we think that's unrealistic, but I don't think it is. I think.
Well, it's just narrowing the margin within which he is.
The GDS can operate.
Just kind of up in the game, and so it's an appropriate action.
Yes.
There's no problem with that. It's,
Not at all.
it still results in, what the type of savings you're looking for will be well below the 2.65 that's supposed to be there.
And like you said, it's, you have your constituents, that's what we're here for, and it's y'all's show. We serve y'all's pleasure.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, we give it permission, that permission from the two, the judge and the auditor. You make that.
Either of them can figure it, so if one of them's unavailable, Vince sees the market is at a particularly good point, he can contact whoever's here at the office. I will leave the forms that they would be required to sign, because it is not a deal until they execute the document and deliver it to us.
So either one of them could act as our agent?
Either of them, and so they would, within the parameters, when Vince thinks the market's right, he'll communicate with both of them, and then whoever's in the office, and then execute it and send it to us.
From a mechanical standpoint, we're naming either one of them as the pricing agent for the county. They have the authority to sign documents. From a practical, political standpoint, I'm not going to affect this transaction unless I have both of their knowledge that we're doing so. If that is at all possible.
We'd expect knowledge of it before we do something.
That's, yeah.
I said the commissioners will know about it before you do it too.
That's for an expedited kind of circumstance to take advantage of the market.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct. Again, because of the fluidity of the market.
Are we talking about that signature occurring within minutes, hours, days?
It will occur within minutes, maybe a couple of hours after we recommend the transaction be effective.
So it's during the business day, so that's why we try to have somebody available who can.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's because there's interest rates on the slugs, there's interest rates on the market on the bonds you're selling, and then
So you're actually looking at multiple
there are
targets?
multiple
We got
variables.
moving targets that we're trying to peg.
You get to throw that car real quick.
Make it stiff.
Yes.
Make it stick.
The appropriate action for the court to take would be to ratify
The court may order or authorize this ordinance, this order that you have before you by motion. So a motion to approve the order authorizing the bonds in the form that we just described to you would be appropriate. I think there was a suggestion that within section 5 and the parameter on interest rate being 2.4%. And so it would be appropriate to make a motion to authorize the order as I have just described and then vote it down.
that was in section 5.
Yeah, I think it's section 5, let me. And it's double I. The true interest cost may not exceed, if it's amended, 2.4%.
Section 5. Yes. 2.4.
Yes, ma'am.
It's important.
It's very important.
You made that motion?
Because there will be additional cost to the county if we do that.
And the letter of engagement.
Those are authorized within the
Parameters, we're talking about parameters. Our
parameter.
next little bullet point here is letter of engagement. We need to act.
It's all included.
It's all included.
That's all included.
Order, it'll be covered in there.
One motion to approve it all.
Yes, sir.
So you make a motion 2.4%.
Yeah, as long as I changed to 265 to 2.4.
Second that.
Okay, Commissioner, motion by Commissioner Wiley, second by Commissioner Pruitt, to approve an order authorizing the issuance of Young County General Obligation Refunding Bond Series 214, authorizing certain performance parameters for the bonds, authorizing the county judge and the county auditor to approve an amount of the interest rate of which will be set in item Section 5, item II at 2.4%. Price and the terms thereof and certain other procedures and provisions related thereto, authorizing the refunding of certain outstanding obligations and the execution of delivery of net escrow amount and enacting other provisions relating to the purpose of this order. I get that covered?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question? Did you say judge and auditor or R auditor? It's judge or auditor.
County judge or the county auditor. That's what this says.
Okay. I thought you said and. I'm just clarifying that.
Okay. We have a second by Commissioner Pruitt. Is there any further discussion with regard to the item? All in favor? Aye. Carried 5-0.
Gentlemen, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Got it.
And we'll stand by, we have the documents for execution, so we'll hold on to those, and so
If you'll bear with us just a few minutes, we'll
yeah.
yeah, Trevor here.
Mark it that.
Item number 11, discuss, consider consolidating polling places for the May 27th election. This is going to be our elections administrator going solo.
Okay, this is just like the primary. I've already gotten agreements from the party chairs that they want to do another joint election for the runoff. We also need to probably consolidate precinct locations so that we're not running 9 different places. So what we proposed is having precinct 5 and 6 at NCTC, 7 and 10 at the Newcastle Methodist Church, 16, 20, and 23 at Fort Belknap Electric in Olney, and 22 and 24 at the First Methodist here in Grant. Just need approval for the commissioners to consolidate those precincts.
Title 10, Subchapter 3, 172.126, Texas Election Code calls for the Commissioners Court to authorize the joint consolidated primary in the primary election order runoff.
Is this a change from any previous election?
I think it's been done before. I don't know that anything's really all that different
When it was done this way?
from what I can tell. It's
I mean, the turnout's gonna be so minimal.
it is.
I know, voters can be creatures of habit.
They can, and you know, that's the thing we've got to work with. And yes, we're going to have people who are going to be upset that they've got to go to Olney rather than have a place in Jean or whatever. But economically, this is the best way to go. It's less workers, it's less setup, it's less everything. And as much as we can use public outlets for voter education, that's what we'll do. So it'll be in the papers, it'll be all over the websites and all that sort of thing.
There will be 1 week of early voting.
There is 1 week of early voting.
Actually 4 days.
That's 5. It's the 19th through the 23rd of May, early voting locations will be the Baldwin Community Library and the Young County Courthouse in the basement.
I'll move that we approve the polling locations for the May 27th runoff election as presented to us by our elections administrator.
You have a list of those?
I have one, I can give, if we could, can you make copies? Hey, Tammy?
Phone calls.
Okay, we've got a motion by Mr. Sykes, second by Mr. Wiley, to
Several documents.
provide for joint consolidated primary runoff elections as presented by Ms. Lawrence Sullivan, our elections administrator. All in favor? Aye. Carried 5. Okay.
She needs her own copies for that.
Bill, we just need one to file with the clerk.
Well,
Everybody might.
I was gonna say, I want the commissioners to have one and I'll do one of the papers, so. That is also on the website, so, you know, if you have voters asking.
You are taking one to the paper.
I'll hand it.
Or Brian.
Hand it to Brian.
I will hand it right to you.
Okay, another item, item number 12, discuss and consider contract upgrading the Hart system. Lauren Sullivan, she came to me the other day and said that we had some kind of maybe a unique opportunity.
We do. I visited with a couple of you after coming back from conference about the new Verity system through Hart, and there's some unique opportunities with Verity. Verity is one of the most interchangeable things I've ever seen in my life as far as one computer can act like another. I have actually an updated quote because of the way we've been kind of consolidating and cutting out different pieces. I had Ken, who is the salesman for Hart, do me an updated quote that has a few fewer pieces than was originally on your packets. That took me late last night.
That's a scary figure right now.
It is a very scary
All
figure.
hearts are thumping.
I know, and honestly, it's a big chunk. But one of the opportunities that we would have is we would be one of the first counties to sign on with Verity if we went forward with the contract that is in your packet. And in doing such, Hart would immediately buy back all of our old equipment and put it in their stockpiles. We wouldn't have to go through trying to sell it to another county. We would have to do a lot of the footwork there. The quote we got for the equipment that we have as far as buyback is $25,643, which takes the pricing quote that I just gave you roughly to $320,000. There is a financing opportunity, and I believe he said the financing was quoted at anywhere from 1.5 to 5%.
That's a lot of money, sir.
That is a lot. It depends on which company we go with, but that would make that would make 5 annual payments of nearly $78,000. Again, we might be able to cut out a little bit more equipment. I'd have to play with those numbers a little bit and see what worst case scenarios look like, what best case scenarios look like.
This is all touchscreen,
This is all touch screens. That's kind of the fun part about this.
no dials, buttons.
No dials, no buttons. It's very intuitive. It will tell you, you have 5 commissioner spots open. You voted for 3, you have 2 left. So it's all right there on the screen. Right now, I don't know if you guys have ever carried around my e-scans, the big things hanging out in the hallway. They're nearly 50 pounds. They're very heavy, and it's very hard for some of our coworkers to pick up and move and do. I pick up things that are 30, 40 pounds all day long, and they're still very heavy. These are 28 pounds. They're the size of Stacy's laptop case. It's very compact, very easy to deal with. Cuts our storage down. That's a big issue around here. Cuts that down a lot. So, you know, there's several neat things about this. There is, and I'm not sure with the quote we've got right here, that was a question I asked Ken this morning and I haven't gotten an answer back, but there is a way that we would even be able to produce our own ballots rather than sending all that information to Hart, having them send it back, us having to wait for it. that sort of thing. So there are some unique opportunities. Yes, that's a very big number. We checked this morning, we bought the original hard equipment that we have right now in 2005 or 6, and then had some more equipment added in 2012. They can't give me a definite timeline as to the life of these systems, but we're already 10 years in, basically, because our equipment was used to begin with. Is that correct, Jerry? The original equipment was used to begin with.
I believe the original equipment.
It's brand new, okay.
Now the-
There are some, yeah, the secondary, okay. So we do have some brand new and some used equipment. For the most part, it's held up pretty well. We talked about when I came in a couple of months ago, the servo component, which is my backup for all of my information, that's still running on a Windows 2000 system. It's a very old computer. That actually goes away completely, which cuts out several longest steps on the front end for me. This is a lot more efficient, a lot more user-friendly, a lot more voter-friendly, but at the same time, it's very expensive.
I
So,
believe our initial equipment was wired mostly through grant funds that came through the American Kodak.
right, and that grant funding is completely gone. There's no way to get anything like that. On this quote, there is an incentive of close to $13,000 for signing on now, plus the $25,000 buyback.
So these people are just basically what you do.
I could've gotten
I'm not
them to
being
come up.
rude, but if they want to sell me $300,000, I think they need to be here and show me something that's going to tickle my
And I can
fancy.
get Ken here, that's
I'm
not a
into
problem.
that.
I can get Ken here, that's not a problem, that's what he does all day long, so.
Okay. Heavens.
But then again, one of the things about Lauren presented too, is we're going to get more objectivity, Lauren, than we are, because they're going to sell everything here.
You're going to have to sell me for $300,000.
Well, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think her presentation is great. Y'all need to bring them in and talk to them and see how their dog and pony show differs.
Now, I want to know what's so great about theirs. I mean, what we're using now isn't really broke.
It's not broken, it's just aging.
Are we
Well, you know what I'm saying.
the money ahead to say pay $25,000 for all that stuff to get them to make more money over from another county? Or are we better off to take and market that to another county?
I don't know that
Like
it's gonna
selling
make a lot of
on
difference. Well, I mean, you can, county to county, for another county to come in and buy it.
Because that's what we did on some of the stuff that we got back
Right.
to another county.
Well, that's an opportunity that came because it was the same equipment that we had purchased, so it made a good fit.
Right. And yes, I mean, there's
I don't know.
the less hassle of this versus could we make X amount of dollars more from another county?
No difference trading in the truck.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's, the good part with this is this system has not been state certified yet. It's in the processes. It will not be ready until March of next year. But the minute the state certifies it, if we go forward on this contract, they will put it on a truck, bring it to us, pick up our equipment, take the parts back, and it's done. They provide all their training. I think there's 15 days of training and support for me and my staff and co-workers and whatever that they would come in and help us get everything set up. The other reason I'm kind of interested in this right now is because when this does go live, we will be in the middle of an off year, meaning not as many high-stress elections. I would rather play with it kind of through a low turnout year than come into a November general election for a president and go, wah.
So the learning curve won't be as steep.
Right. Hart is one of the best election equipment manufacturers in the country. As far as what we're seeing from the primaries, some of the other manufacturers are having issues with their technology not being safe enough, secure enough, transparent enough. I feel like Hart really is. They're available all day long. I can call them with any questions, and they promise to be just as good at this system as they are with the HBS that we currently have.
In the past election, the primary that you ran, did you have any county problem with it?
But yeah, tally machine that we had just bought, kept freezing. We shut it down 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night, you know, while we're tabulating, which scares the fire out of me. It was more of a user issue, stuff that runs in the background all the time, and it just locked itself up. That was really the only scary issue for me. The other thing that we had out on the polling sites was we had batteries that would drain very quickly. So doing a curbside vote for a person who can't make it inside the polling location was impossible in one instance because the battery wouldn't stay up long enough to walk it out of the car. So, you know, we worked around, we did what we had to do, but at the same time, you know, technology changes every minute.
Were there any problems with people that touch the screen?
Oh yeah, there are all the time. And those screens, I mean, they're just like your iPad and stuff. They're gonna get worn out when you mash on something that's not meant to be mashed on. I'm actually impressed that the screens aren't further damaged than they are. So, even though it says great big on every one of them, we take the sign on, this is not a touch screen, I still come up with it. So.
Like a little kid. Everybody's the same as it.
Yeah.
You know,
So.
kid nowadays, you have an etch sketch, they will use their finger on the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Knobs have no meaning to it.
No.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the reliability would increase with this equipment, which would bring increased credibility with our voters about a fair, friendly election,
Absolutely.
and it'd be much easier to get workers maybe in the polling booth because the equipment would be more compact. Easier. We never think about the mechanical end of an election, people moving equipment around and that kind of thing.
And
Get a hold of it.
And
And you do
honestly, I would love for you guys to come in and we show you what all these things do and how much there is to running the test I'm running this afternoon for logic and accuracy.
Who sets up the machines for elections?
I do.
You're not very big.
I'm not very big. I'm not very big, but I do wrestle the machines. The workers wrestle the machines. You know, I've held off for now and calling for assistance from like the sheriff's department. That's the only other outlet we could use. But you know, if it continues to get heavier and heavier, I mean, that may be something that we have to do. So.
Call me Lauren. Okay.
What kind of time frame do we got to be considered?
This quote is good until June the 30th.
It's good on equipment that's not going to be certified until next year.
Yes.
And that's what I'm worried about too. I mean, nobody's even using it yet.
They're not, but the certification for an elections equipment is years long. And it goes through several state and federal checks.
So what happens okay, so we do it this year, next year it's $100,000 cheaper. Kind of like if you buy an Xbox 360 when it first comes out, it's $500, and then the year it's $200.
I don't know that this is going to diminish that much, honestly, because it is so brand new and so,
You know what I'm saying?
it's meant to last many years. They have not had an update for the system that we're using now until this. And so, you know, that's at least 10-year-old equipment.
It's not like we're buying from a startup company, Hart's been around.
Right, Hart's been around for a very long time, so.
At the same time, we might find some money, if some kind of grant or something.
When did the money
I mean, we got time, June
The money for
30th.
this would be due 30 days after the shipment.
Got a year.
30 days after.
Yeah, the first payment would be due 30 days after shipment, so you're looking at next
So
April.
we're looking forward
A year, but
in our 2015 budget.
yeah.
Where did this money come from, Ms. Auditor?
Taxpayer.
Where?
Yeah,
The money.
there's that $23,000.
I just sat back here watching.
Easy come.
No, I remember we saved that though when we were sitting in the.
Can you finance this?
There are also provisions in the law where if I contract with an entity like the hospital or the schools or whatever else, I can charge for the equipment itself up to 10% of the purchase cost per day. I don't currently, because most of our entities help buy the equipment that we've got now. You know, that may be something else we could look at.
What continuing fees will go along with this equipment as far as update, service?
Licensing.
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 The license is another $11,000.
How about technical service on this stuff? How much will they get us?
That's a good
Well, they
question.
give us any.
$30,000 worth.
Yeah, 30,000 and then,
Yeah.
you know, the equipment we've got right now, after every election, we're sending in 2 to 5 pieces. I sent in a JVC, which is the Judge's Booth Controller, that gives you your little spit out ticket. I sent that in, it was $500. You know, luckily they didn't charge us for looking at our tally machine because it was only on hold, and so they didn't charge us for
That
that.
30,000 is for the first 2 weeks now.
I think what we,
Grab a hold of that.
I think what we need to do is check with the other entities, the school, the cities, and see if they're on board with it, because they
Do
own,
they have to pay?
they own half of some of those other.
Well,
Is this a shared cost or?
The additional.
They bought pieces.
Consideration that I would probably, involve a statement you make about the equipment moving down in price. There's probably a chance that it would move down in price, but it's not like that, there's a huge volume of sales for these things like that, because most, or a lot of people are like us, they've got one elections administrator that operates, basically owns, has, maintains all of the equipment and all of the elections then are put on by that individual by contracts through all these different agencies. So there's not going to be it's not like the Xbox and they're going to sell 5 million of them overnight, you know, or
In a year.
it's something that,
Yeah. And so
Everything goes down.
it's not a big part.
Well, I do think I'd like to hear from the representative, Lauren, not because of your presentation about it, just I'd like to hear.
You know, an option to pay for it, there are companies, I know Government Capital and some others that we've used that do, you know, the lease finance on this at a very low interest rate.
Right.
So, and that, instead of us coughing up all the money at one time.
Yeah, and I think too, when we do get that presentation, it's gonna be looking at other entities out there. Yeah, we'll be just like time, get their input.
And that's no problem either. From what I've heard from this last city, school, hospital election, they look at me and they say, do it. Tell us what we owe you, tell us what you need from us, but you do it.
Hospital district said that. We ain't gonna go there, are we?
It's so easy to spend other people's money.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to just spend money. I think this is something that if we get in on the front end, you know, it may end up saving us a lot. And, you know, if we can, I'd like in the next several years to start looking at super precincts, meaning anybody in the county can vote just like early voting. You can go anywhere and that would cut down some more and we could end up selling equipment if we.
Well, anything we buy for elections, I think we need to have all the entities that are affected by elections in here, get their voice on this, because I don't want anybody later on going saying, I could have told them they should have voted.
Absolutely.
Lubbock County right now, one of our counties that has a super election.
Yep.
Archer County does.
Yeah.
It's designed and whether there was kind of a protocol, it's worked real good for them out there.
It works really well, and, you know, in a county like ours where I drive 30 minutes to go to work, I'd love to be able to vote in my office on election day when I forgot to because I'm doing 60 million other things.
Lauren, I think it behooves us then to table this for right now until you can get Hart and all the taxing entities together for one of our commissioner court meetings in the near future.
No. Here are the precincts for election.
I'll make a motion for a 10-minute recess, please.
Have a motion,
Absolutely.
Back.
Brooke, and a second by Mr. Wiley, to table this issue to get close consideration. And we will have that at the discretion of the election administrator whenever she has it.
In here as fast as I can.
Okay, we'll be in 10-15 minute recess.
Can we do this region or not? We're gonna take on.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting back to order. It's 11:15 on Monday, May 14th, April 14th, 2014. At the request of Commissioner South, we'll move item number 17 up. discuss and consider possible modification and update of Young County subdivision rules and regulations.
You'll recall a couple of meetings back, Mr. and Miss Lama showed here, talking about a subdivision, actually it's a division of some property that they were doing out on Finest Road. It was off the state highway. And we were talking about our subdivision rules and how they related to their plans for that property. But of course, at the time, we've got a document to go by and we need to go by it. But since then, I visited with the Womax again, and there's some questions about the desirability of some of those rules in our subdivision ordinances that I could not explain to her as to why we came up with those particular reasons. And I understand that in government sometimes to come up with a why of things, but I certainly don't think it's wrong to ask those questions. And so I would like for Ms. Womack to come up here and tell us specifically what it is that she's looking for. But in general, I think that we probably need to revisit those. I don't know if those were plagiarized from someone else or if we run them through past, that's well, it was a copy, like somebody else did the work.
I think at the time there were probably more of a model set of rules, and maybe they had been formally adopted by some other county that provided those, I think, to Judge Stevie.
Don't let that word plagiarized stand as a negative to you, okay? It wasn't intended to be, it was a copy from somebody, from some other county.
I don't think somebody else, it was if I would recall the statement that he made, no need to reinvent the wheel.
I agree with that too. So we use many templates around here and those kind of things, but we need to kind of look at them and see whether or not they might not fit our needs better to maybe modify, change, or enhance some of those things. So maybe it's a good time to do that. As you all know, we've got a lot of activity going on right now. I believe the city council talked about annexing a large block of property out there. I understand that agricultural land turned to residential property is going to bring a lot more in taxes to Young County. And we need to try to do what we can to prevent problems in the future from those who choose to buy that kind of property, but also help those who wish to develop it. So, Robin, if you would, please.
Well, and the main thing that I think that we visited, and Jake is out of town, or he would be here, we visited with Mr. Sykes about is there's nothing wrong with the rules and regulations that you have set forth, but we just feel like there's no in between. Those regulations seem to be modeled for a full-fledged subdivision where you're actually, streets, the whole shebang, and there's no in between. And then we feel like kind of what we're doing is a step down from that. It's not with all the bells and whistles that you're looking for in a regular subdivision, but you don't have any exceptions for that. It's kind of an all or nothing within the guidelines that you have set forth for Young County. So that's probably the main thing is that just kind of look at that and see, well, is there something in between that, we need to sit down if someone isn't doing a full-fledged subdivision. And the second thing is probably the precedence that has obviously been set in Young County for other projects that are pretty much identical to what we're doing. One that we spoke about with Mr. Sykes was at Timberview, where some gentlemen purchased 6 acres about 5 years ago. Timberview. Where they extended Timberview, they bought 6 acres, Tony Hawkins, Lane
Ron
Trader.
Robertson's house right there.
And Randy Saylor, and they divided that 6 acres into, I believe, 8 lots. And these subdivision regulations were not applicable to them. They weren't required. That's speaking to them personally. They're good friends of ours. And so in conversation, they related that, and they weren't required to do this. They just said, I told you guys this is what we're doing, and I said, okay.
Is that there wasn't a plan for that? Or?
I cannot answer 100% on that because I, haven't researched that, but just in conversation with them.
Do any of you recall that happening? Was it presented to the court?
I don't ever recall.
Well, it was in the last 5 years.
No, it was not presented to court.
In the last 5 years?
No.
I don't remember it.
I figured that whenever Lane and his dad put together Timber Ridge, that it was probably, they had something to do at that time.
What subdivision rules were in place at that was 30 years ago, wasn't it?
That's a long time ago.
This property was owned by, Mr. Lunsford. It was 6 acres that was privately owned by Mr. Lunsford. He put it up for sale, and, it was purchased by Tony and Lane and Randy Sager. And I don't have an exact date.
He owned the property and sold it to
Randy and Lane.
And Tony.
And they,
there were probably, there's a plat in place that would be a plat of Timber Ridge that might be included in.
This is just.
Well, that was.
it was me an addendum to it because it was,
Yeah, because it was originally owned by Tony, by Lane and his dad. Originally. So we would have to have bought it from them, I would think.
I don't know about that 6 acres. I don't know who originally owned it. I don't know if it was part of the original plat of Timber Ridge. I don't know.
But if there was a modification to the plat, it should have come before the court. It would have been under.
so that will be in the record somewhere. You understand Ms. Womack's consternation when we told her before we had this set of rules, and we need to go by them to make sure that everybody played by the same rules, that there was a reason for them rules being there. And there's rules there that honestly are open to some discussion as to why they're there. And I think that we as a court need to look at that. But I understand her consternation when she talks to the people who developed that, and they said they didn't have to follow that. So I don't know if it was just an oversight or what the situation was, but we're gonna have more and more people bringing us these plats for these pieces of property to divide up. And eventually they're gonna become a county benefit or problem, depending on how we accept them into the county's business, because they're gonna come in and want us to take over those roads.
Okay, my other question is when they went out there and they did what they did, and they came to the court and asked that those roads that they installed be entered into our road system.
I believe Timberview is on my list of roads.
The one that they said.
They extended Timberview is what they did.
They extended it.
So it was already his, I just.
Was
But
it?
I thought you said, when, last time you were in here, that like, when you do that, it's almost gonna be like, what am I trying to say, like the big cities, and they have their own housing association, homeowners thing, yeah.
Right, I mean, our particular property, we're not asking you to maintain the small road that,
Right.
that would be on the property at all. No, and then.
See, that's what I thought she said.
Yeah.
She's not, it's gonna have, each one's gonna have separate septic systems.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, of course, they're tying to water, which is already on both ends of that property, they're gonna loop it.
And actually, the engineer from Port Belknap, he's actually in with Shaw Falls, we paid him to look at the design and approve that before we ever came to you guys, see if that was even feasible in the water system, because we actually lived and owned 2 different houses at Timber Ridge, and so we are well aware of water issues when it just dead ends like it did. We were part of all of that before you guys did that.
Of course, I think we mentioned lot drainage to them primarily as part of the problem there, make sure that they sold to one person who didn't dump water over the other.
I recall in the northeast corner, you got 2 tanks up there. If they get full running around, they're gonna come back going to the south across 2 other lots.
Well, there's nothing being sold on that particular side. It would be all on this side. This land we would keep personally.
I think what they're doing is awesome. I mean, they're running
Well, and
young
even
county, I
talks-
mean, move people
Well,
out.
maybe we can rework those, particular rules to suit Young County and the circumstance it's in right now, to have maybe a kind of a subdivision light for those kind of things. We don't want to build in problems for the future people who are going to be governing this county after us.
We can't make it any less, than what it is in the laws and codes, statutes.
Absolutely.
It's gotta be at least like, we should be strict, but we can't be loose.
Some of that stuff that's in those regs are state mandated.
And those that are will stay there.
Right.
But is there rules there that any of you know about that aren't, that could be changed?
I don't know about that.
You know, I did not bring that docket with me, but I think you made some notes of some of
I
the
did.
topics. But
Are
like
there
this,
gonna be any streets and alleys?
there will be one road in the
Or
vehicle
is there gonna be anything dedicated to the use of the owners or the public thereof?
the owners.
The owners owners of the property, so it's gonna be jointly owned.
Yeah, their actual property line comes to the center of the road.
You know, I don't think we may be able to modify some particulars in there, but I think that's gonna require a plan.
We don't have an issue with the plat, but if you'll go through and read underneath the filing of the final plat, not only do you want the plat engineered, which is totally understandable, but within that, the wording of the language states, you also, and I wish I would have brought it with me, but you want, all planned roads. Number one, you want a surety bond for any road construction. You want us to purchase a surety bond for that. You want us to, which, you know, we've done bonds. I mean, we've done work here at the courthouse. I mean, we understand that, but why do we need to purchase a surety bond for a road that we're building to your specs? The second thing is that every water drainage, you want an engineered plan for water drainage. You want an engineered plan for all road construction. You want an engineered plan. Just help me, what am I forgetting? And
Those are the two, the surety bond was my hang up as to why we needed that surety bond.
right. You know, for our own property. I mean, we're building a road on our own
Yeah.
property, and you want me to buy a surety bond for
I
it.
agree.
Well, Robert, the thing is it not your project specifically that I want the court to look at? It's our subdivision rules specifically prompted by your situation
Right.
to do so and see if there's a way that we can make them better. Once again, the judge makes a good point, is that we're state government. County government is state government. We can only do what the state of Texas allows us to do. But we can change things that are specific stipulations for Young County to help you out. And also, we can find you a reason as to why those are there.
Well, and we obviously want to make sure that we are following every step of the law, or we would have never brought this to you. Making sure that we're going A to Z and not have any problems looking back. I guess we could have just developed our plan like we did at Timber Ridge.
What do we have to do to get adopt a set of rules, sir? With those rules, what was done to adopt those rules?
Those rules were presented to the court, and they were debated here in the court, and that was the court's decision, was to to adopt the rules, regulations that were presented here, and we didn't write them. They were modeled after another county. Don't recall just which one, but I can find that information out quick. But they pretty well followed the guidelines that's in the local government code for subdivision. Divisions of property outside the municipal.
So the mode of changing anything that may need to be changed is that I could bring it before the court and we would discuss the situation and
Sure, what
change it or
you know,
not.
if you want to modify some of those, what you need, what should be done is the rules that we have adopted. And we've got them.
All the way on the sheet.
And then to whatever number that is, I can't remember, of the local government code that authorizes subdivisions and the planning thereof. You know, it states pretty clearly that if you divide property, if anyone wants to divide property into 2 or more lots, other than some agricultural exemptions, I guess you could say, or some modifications to that, and you have property that's dedicated for the use of the public, like streets, alleys, cul-de-sacs, parks, any of those kinds of things like that. It calls for plat, and plat calls for the file in the county clerk's office, and being accepted, the plat being accepted by the commissioner's court. If there's already a plat in place, and there's several here, Timber Ridge being one of them, that's under plat filed in the county clerk's office and then accepted by the court many years ago. If there was a modification to that, in other words, if somebody bought property that someone else owns and they decided they weren't wanting further to break that down and divide that, it should have been a modification of the subdivision, and it should have been filed here, brought through this court to approve. I don't recall that ever happening, but that's how that's supposed to work.
Is there any need for any public hearings on changing the subdivision rules? Those kind of things?
I'll have to look at that.
Okay, I'll look at it anytime. Take a look.
You know, I don't have any problems at all modifying what we modify to help our property owners be able to comply without costing harm to them. So,
You know, I certainly don't owe the Walmarts anything particular, but we need to watch out for the future of the county. We don't want to do anything to the detriment of the county, but we want to try to do it better if we can. Sometimes the government trips over itself trying to help. If this is one of those situations where we can do something better, if nothing else, we can put the flag up again that people need to pay attention to what they're doing when they're building subdivision. So, you know, I've got Dark Canyon out there, guys. It's,
you talked about the annexing the property out here. Well, if they do that, they annex in that, then the city obviously will be responsible for the streets and the alleys, the sewer, water, and all those kind of circumstances. If they do that, I suppose, have they annexed
I thought
that?
they were going to do that Thursday. I don't know what the vote was. Haven't heard. Do you know, Brian?
It's in their extraterritorial jurisdiction regardless of that, which probably would play a part in the subdivision rules and regulations overriding any authority that we have. So,
Okay.
your circumstances are far enough out into the unincorporated area that absolutely it's going to be a factor.
What we'd really like to do is hear from more developers like yourself. I know you guys are doing a lot to develop properties around the community right now, and that you're building a lot of new houses, and that this is a piece of properties. Have you done rural properties before like this?
No, just for ourselves, but not.
Okay. Like hear from other builders and developers and real estate folks what their input is. We need to find out what it is that we can change, that we're allowed to change, and have a good reason why we want to change it.
That would be a good idea, get hold of Randy and have y'all come in here.
Well, and just, when we were looking at it to begin with, talking to our banker and, different people like that. I mean, everyone, because we just don't really have anything like that in Graham. Everyone is very excited about the possibility of being able to offer that to people. And we have talked to several people from out of Graham that are interested in this property and coming here to our community. I mean, Graham is, as you know, a great community to come to at all stages of life. And just being able to offer that. And we're not trying to put any type of financial burden on the county. Actually, water, roads, everything would be absorbed by us. We're not even asking you to maintain anything. But it would benefit you greatly because the $460-something a year that I pay on taxes on that property would multiply greatly
Absolutely.
when you put homes. And we do have regulations. We will have deed restrictions on the type of homes that are able to be built there.
So when I moved here, the far side of Timber Ridge Lake was just completely undeveloped, and now there's all kinds of.
There's no lots left.
Yeah, there's no place left, is there?
But this is out on Flat Rock you're talking about, right?
No, Finest.
Fine.
Which is a great area.
It's all-
We actually lived across the road on 40 acres. We built a house up there and lived across the road. It's a great area, very well kept, state maintained highway.
State maintained highway.
And anyway, I just think it would be very beneficial to the county and the community to be able to offer something like that to people.
I'll try to get you an answer about that surety bond. Why? I'll check with THC and I'll read up on that code and try to determine what it says as best I can, and then bounce it off THC. And I appreciate you coming and joining the discussion with us on that. And once again, with the advent of the annexation of that property out there for houses, if people are going to come buy a house in Graham, we ought to give them as many choices as possible. And
I mean,
either live in the county or live in the city.
Right. Because, housing, obviously, I'll just tell you, if you're not from Graham and you move in like we did 8 years ago, and we lived a lot of places, we were shocked at what was available and the cost. I mean, it is expensive to live in Graham. This is the most expensive place we've ever lived. We've lived in bigger places, smaller places. And we met with a couple last Saturday from Granbury. They're moving in from Granbury. And they're just devastated.
Are you kidding me?
No,
We're higher than Granbury?
yes,
Wow.
yes. And they're devastated on what is available. You know, a house that you're gonna pay, you know, $175,000, $200,000 for, you're gonna get it. And then put another, you know, how much, Ennis has notated, Graham is a very expensive housing market to live in.
Yeah.
And that's why when we came here, we just built a house, because Jake's like, well, we can build a house cheaper and redo it, seriously.
Yeah.
But then there's not many building options here. There's not many lots. There's not for people that want to come in. And if you'll create places for them to build, you're going to generate more tax
Absolutely.
base.
Part of the answer to your surety bond thing is if a contractor or something like that that they might hire, that the developer, even the developer themselves go bust and they can't finish the road, that's what the surety bond's gonna be.
Yeah, I understand that. We discussed that when we were discussing it together.
You know, those are the issues regarding the surety bond.
That road's gonna be the first thing that's built before she thinks about that.
But it's not a road that you're going to maintain.
At least we won't maintain it until you ask us to do it. It's got to be brought up to some standards first.
It's a road that's dedicated to the use of the owner of the property.
Exactly.
So it's a community kind of property, it would enter into that, lighting requirement. We, Commissioner's Court, whether you petitioned them to take the roads or didn't, it would be a decision on the court whether they accepted those roads into the maintenance system in the county.
A lot of that stuff that's in there is, it may seem not as, like it should be. A lot of it is just as important to y'all benefit as it is anything. You know, in my opinion.
Jim, you understand though, asking why is something everyone should do.
Like I said, we just feel like there's just make sure there's no in between, you know, that is for, you know, your full-fledged street, curb, subdivision. And we just feel like what we're doing is gonna be a step down from that. And so just asking you to visit with that in mind is all. So, and for future, like you said, just future projects that someone else might wanna undertake in the county. So, appreciate your time and
Yes, ma'am.
consideration.
Thank you.
Like,
April 10th? Is what?
city council would annex.
They did vote to annex it? Okay. Thank you, sir.
And I remember when Judge Peavy's final statement in this court, he stated that we need to revisit the subdivision rules. Well, we have never done it.
We looked at it, we revised them in 07. Last time they revised them,
We'll look at it and work on it.
We need to.
Thank you, that's all I had.
No action. Further review. I move we table that for further review.
Is there a second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Give that one to Jim for some time. Okay, let's go back up to 13. I believe this is Matt Pruitt. Consider window replacement bids for caretaker house in Yorkville.
Right. I told Becky she was wanting to get the windows redone out there because they're losing a lot of heat and cooling in one time of the year. So she got us a couple of bids, and you can see it's considerably different. I think in the long run, replacing windows is going to save you some money, electric. So,
Who pays the utility bills out there? The caretaker or just the county?
You do.
Nice of her to notice what they were.
yeah. So I thought I'd get a couple of bids. I don't know where we take it out of, sure.
I don't know, I'm looking, they have about $2,400 left in their building repairs.
Maybe about 1,300 somewhere else.
No, they have a little
For
more.
the air conditioning system, for the museum.
Well, we were talking about, for that, we were talking about using that donation money.
But we're gonna,
for the museum, but for this, I think we should use probably budget money, because other
Yeah.
people didn't donate money to
right.
this in the
And,
care.
and I think on the museum too, we need to, before we put the air conditioning stuff in, we might want to look at those windows and stuff too. Because I'd hate to air condition something that just leaks right out into the world.
I'm looking at the building repair maintenance on the Roland, there's $5,200.
Oh, okay. So they got plenty of money to do it.
There's money in there to, trying to see which, I mean,
37 from
the lower bid.
Norco.
The only thing that I'm concerned about is why it's such a big spread,
I know that's kind of disturbing, was
you
it?
know?
$3,700.
You know, I would understand maybe $1,000 difference, but
3,000.
that kind of difference, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I really,
Something doesn't, something doesn't jive there.
somebody missed something on it whenever they did it.
Or added something.
Well, if you notice though, with diamond siding and windows didn't put a whole lot in there. I mean, the Norco broke it down a little bit.
Diamond size, we talked about what this would have to cut, this would have to make to get the windows back, to move the gym, everything.
Stove, that's a major deal.
Yeah,
That's why the sidings overlap the windows.
It's not gonna be the easiest replacement job, but still. You know,
Where's that Norco out of?
Wichita Falls,
it's not,
And diamond siding?
Grand.
locally owned.
I mean, they came out there and did the estimate. They know. They know what they have to do with that too.
Only thing is, we go get Norco manufacturing, come down there and get started on it, and get that way to do it, so you know. We're sorry, but we can't do it.
Surety bond.
We'll get more than what.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't have no dedication to any of them. I mean, if you think
I don't
we
either.
should go with diamond siding, then we
I don't have
should.
any.
I just think it needs to be done.
Maybe it's I wonder if we ought to get a second, another 2 more bids from somebody and compare to what we got.
Okay,
Yeah, third bid would tell us a lot.
That right there is just wrong.
that's good.
You know what I'm saying? Where, the two big spread there.
Did you go that, Cheryl?
I'm sorry.
We're gonna get, we go to Becky and say get 1 or 2 more bids?
Sure.
Just so we can see why there's a $3,000 difference.
From some different companies.
Yeah. I'm good with that. We'll table it to the next. I'll move for that.
You're gonna put it on the 20,
Yeah,
the
we'll just put it on the
28th
next
or
one.
whatever.
Motion by Commissioner Pruitt, second by Rogers.
That's pretty good idea. Didn't think about
For information.
And we'll put it back on there for the 28th.
that. Yeah, 28th, yeah.
Okay, to the 28th.
That way maybe we get 1 or 2 more. And like you said, I mean, we can figure out why there's 3,000 difference.
You know,
It's a good idea.
Did you ask all in favor? Did you ask for a vote?
I believe it.
Okay, I didn't want to make sure I heard what I heard. The other guy was kind of silent, I just wanted to make sure I was voting as a fan of the motion.
Okay. Okay, item number 14, consider equipment to be sold at auction. Commissioner Rogers, Commissioner Wiley, bunker auction, and Ritchie Brothers auction.
I'm putting something in the bunker auction too.
Well, now, you said we need to publish what's gonna be in there, it has been there 2 weeks before the auction.
Yeah, there just needs to be a general description of the equipment,
I don't know if I can get it in Wednesday's paper.
trucks, or road working equipment, or whatever.
but I'll need to get it at least in by Saturday, and that, I mean, the auction's on Saturday.
I'll get some information to pick up.
The,
Is that what you're needing?
auction's on your board, both of them on the same day.
No, 10.
10th.
Which is which? The 10th
10
is.
is on Saturday.
Bunger, and the
Bunger,
14th and
14th.
15th is on Richard.
Got a contract in the packet for Richard Brothers, that's for the two trucks.
Right, so you're definitely putting the 2 trucks in on the Ritchie Brothers.
So anything over, sold over 2,500 is a 25% sales commission.
They guarantee that they'll $25.
Anything ends up with us something for 26 and 22. Commission is
Contract
secret.
says 15%, market down 10%.
But if y'all, if I could get that list today, so I can get it.
What's Bunger auction commission?
10,
All the way across, no matter what the price sells?
no matter what. Plus it's a top skipping job over there.
If you want to, I mean, I can
What is the
list
best
it.
option to get you?
I've been pretty good.
There's certain items that Bunker will run,
What are those items?
like mowers and things like that.
Implements.
Things that you would think would not home run down there. It's the golf cart.
Yeah, I understand. Depends on your power that day. How lucky you
And
get.
so, who else gonna go with Richard Brothers?
This truck, this 10.
You got 2 trucks. You got,
I'm not going to Richmond, I'm going to Bunker.
I'm going to Bunker.
Let me offer up a discussion if good. We all own a brush bandage. And I think you and Mr. Miller would purchase it.
how it was.
Would anybody like to buy my part? Because I think it's time to dispose of that piece of equipment.
I'm going to donate that, my part to.
Thank you. That's the reason I'd like to take it to auction if we could.
We can split it up. What we get? $5 for each of them.
Yeah, there's probably a better way to handle that brush. Now,
I want that skid steer thing with the petition.
any problem with that? You remember, don't you?
I do.
That money, that was bought with grant money, correctly? What is bought with?
But it belongs to all of us. I'll make sure that you're all on board. If you decide to go there.
You have to sell it like you would
I don't
any.
know. Could you use it, sir?
I will make.
I'll bring it to you and let you use it. Well,
I used to.
I'd make a suggestion, if we do it, it needs to go to Richie Brothers.
that'd be a better
I
market
think
for
it'd be a better market, Richie Brothers.
it.
So,
It works great. It's just that it takes a lot of time for upkeep and maintenance on that thing, and it breaks a lot.
It's a very high.
It's constantly got to be adjusted.
Very high maintenance. Well, you need to have.
You need to have experience
at Stacy, it's fun.
Richard Brothers.
that was bought on, grant, Nortex, it was on grant to eliminate or divert things from landfills. And it,
How long ago?
well.
I've been here since 2000. I don't
Dwayne
remember.
Daniel himself on that deal too.
Well, I wrote the grant for it, served on that committee. It was for $15,000 is what we got the grant for. That machine cost, about $20,000. So each precinct kicked in, $1,500 or something like that to make the purchase. It was something just in excess, just short of or in excess of 20, somewhere around $20,000.
It's a great kind of diesel engine on that thing.
Yeah, we
With
use
the rest of the apparatus.
intensely, we use it a lot. It's work intense now. It breaks down.
It is. I would hate to think how much I paid.
But the pieces of wood it shells out get bigger and bigger all day long.
So Cheryl, do you have a line serial number or anything to go with that in your office?
Yeah, that'd be on inventory.
Yeah, it's on inventory. I
You
have.
probably have to call them, give them a contract on
Oh, you do?
there. Everything's there.
Is that the problem to get that handed to it? Yeah.
How often do they have sales, Stacy?
This is the perfect time to do it.
Well, I mean, if we don't get it in this one, we can always go to the next one.
We got to put it in,
Okay. All right.
You can't beat the horse to it. It's got all the,
Equipment's gotta be there by the field.
Okay.
So we don't have any family disagreement over the brush bandit.
count on this end.
Okay.
You better use it.
Not gonna use it.
You're not gonna use it, okay.
My boys are probably gonna actually jump up and down.
Yeah, yeah.
See you, sucker.
That's one of those things that'd be cheaper to rent if you had to have it, that would be honest.
Or to have somebody, hire somebody.
We just need a list of equipment, we can put it all on there at the same time, I think, to advertise for them.
I'll just list out separately Bunger auction items and then Ritchie Brother
You
auction.
know, it doesn't have to be more specific than the brush chipper, trucks.
Pickup, just a general description.
I hope that pickup will make it over there.
Need to be separated, these pieces of equipment will be at Ritchie Brothers and these.
Okay.
You know which one that
You're
Fort
good
Belknap
with the Fort
pickup?
Belknap pickup.
Yeah.
Okay, you can drag it out there.
Hey, I watched it clean it up. It looks pretty. Runs like crap, but it looks pretty.
I'll pull that title out too, and I've got those titles pulled.
Rogers, you gonna like that one?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Some equipment. Where's equipment?
Man, we're going slow today.
Stacy, can you take those signed titles and a signed,
Let me take it.
At
sheet
auction.
with you? Tell me when you want them.
We need to deal on May 10th, May the 14th and 15th. All in favor? Carried. Okay, item number 15, got in your packet, a letter that was received from the Bureau of Land Management. This particular Bureau of Land Management, they kind of been on the news here lately. And in another state, stirring up a good bit of ruckus, but what I've understood from some of our Red River counties, not Red River County, but our counties up on Red River, that the Bureau of Land Management is making an attempt to acquire, I believe, additional property. Something like that. Anyway, they have invited us, the Bureau of Land Management and the Indian Affairs, yeah, what's it?
Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Bureau of Indian Affairs, yeah.
BI.
They've invited us to be a cooperating agency, which kind of raises a red flag to me.
Yeah, where's the trap?
You know, and it's gonna cost us, so we have to have a representative available to go and make their meetings. They'll have 6 or more over the next 2 or 3 years. They'll have to do environmental survey and studies, but there'll be some monetary outlay in travel and time and maybe a few other things like that, but it's a commitment that we'll be making to be a cooperating agency in their study and have a place at the table. I guess it would be the right term. Woody Gosson put out a little statement a couple of weeks ago to kind of referenced this and said it sure would be good for their county cousins to support them in their effort. In other words, they're gonna be a player at the table. Wichita and Will County, maybe Clay County, some of those up there on that Red River. I don't know if it would be applicable or I guess it would be appropriate if we chose to, but I don't know how good we'd do. They'd do.
What would we get out of it?
I don't know.
Good question.
Except that, you know, you might find out information or anything like that. I don't have any upland lands that I'm aware of in Young County. know that Archer County does, but there are some up in that area along the Red River.
Wasn't there an Indian tribe coming back to make some claims on some property?
I've heard that too.
I'm thinking,
I did hear
See,
that.
that's what.
This was the last Indian reservation in Texas
That's what we're trying.
before it moved to Fort Sill.
See, that's kind of what I'm wondering, what maybe getting in the works, or something like that in the future that we're, if you go up against.
What's this going to cost us to have an ear in the room to find out what the BLM is doing?
you read that?
Trying to find.
Time and travel, that's about it, isn't it? What you
It
did.
is, you know, excuse me for questioning those things. It always doesn't seem so simple, so.
Well, I'll say it's probably gonna be, if they, for a study done here, it'll probably be up to us to make a study.
Or do what we can to head off the study.
It probably behoove us to have an ear in this deal to make sure what's going on. Be better to get an ear so.
Well, just for many of the folks in our county, they're gonna be very interested in how the BLM corresponds to personal property rights and what have you right now especially.
This statement here says that cooperating agencies do have obligations to contribute staff and RMP EIS team to the RMP EIS team assist with analysis for which they have particular expertise and fund their own participation.
I had read the letter and that's where it came from. The question was fund their participation cost.
What I get out of that is just time and travel.
In general, you'll be expected to provide a person to attend meetings to accomplish the task, whatever task that might be, as well as to accommodate other time involvement. I anticipate about 6 cooperating agency meetings over the first 12 to 15 months of the planning process, with an additional 3 to 4 meetings over the following year.
Down the catch-22 situation, I realize that none of us particularly have the time, but do we allow something to sneak up on us without first-hand knowledge of it? If something should happen along these lines.
Well, I don't think we should, I think we should look into it and see what, like you said, it has.
It won't hurt us. It won't cost us.
No.
Look into it.
Unless it gets expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, we could call, like you said, Woody's involved in it, we could call Judge Goslin over in Wichita County and ask him what he thinks, or what all's involved in it, because he might know a little more than we know.
If the Young County Commissioners is interested in private cooperating,
Oh, is it
Today's
the day.
Yes.
No kidding.
cooperating agency, please notify this fellow, my staff, April 14th.
My suggestion is don't go ahead and contact them until we are, with the MOA, we might want to, MOU, we might want to not sign it.
We'll need you to sign a memorandum of understanding that describes the role and responsibilities of the BLM and the Young County, of the BLM and the Young County Commissioners enclosed.
There's a sound of it.
There's the draft we have.
BLM office and it's also, you know, that's one of
Yeah.
them,
Don't be a try. If you spend the night, you go down there one day.
I suspect that they'll have their, they may have said something about that, about meetings. I don't expect they'll be that far up. Maybe over in Oklahoma.
BLM office.
And they may just go central, where forever. They're gonna use Texas and Kansas and everybody, right?
I think it'd be in
I do too.
I'm gonna be busy when these meetings commence.
Exactly what you're saying. Does it have to be a named representative? I didn't look, or can it be just a commissioner of the Young County Commissioners Court?
That's good. I mean, because there might be a week that I could
Spread
do
it.
it.
Spread the
You could
story out.
do it.
Yeah.
Jimmy could do it.
I don't see why that wouldn't work. That's probably a better deal to do it that way.
Rotate it, section. Yeah.
Because here's the thing, you might get something or have more to offer at the time you go, man, it just makes more sense.
I'm good with looking into it. And like you said, it'd be nice.
Each entity agrees to fund some experience associated with the planning process.
Dennis just used the Young County Commissioners. Is eligible. It says the Young County Commissioners plural.
Yeah.
Is eligible.
So
So probably just send a representative each time.
I'm sure that's probably possible, that Young County Commissioners is referencing the body.
That would put an undue hardship on the court to the use of its time. We may really get something out of it that we need to get out of it. And again, I'm reacting to the current environment that we're having to live in.
We also request that you notify if you plan not to be a cooperating member.
That tells you something.
And it says,
Thus they'll remember you had a chance.
should you choose not to, should be assured that you will still, that we will still provide the Young County Commissioner with ample opportunity to participate in the planning process. I don't know what that means.
Well, they give it and take it away, get it back.
It said, yeah, so if it's the cooperating member that runs my flag of the vote, you know. I don't know whether I want to cooperate or whether I want to be in opposition to whatever it is that will be done.
Exactly, that's okay. We don't have to be for everything they do. You know, and also you may attend the meeting versus having a voting part in the meeting. I think you need to notify them today, or I would recommend that we notify them today and tell them that we'd like to participate. And then when we get the MOU, we'll discuss it again.
Sound like a plan?
Well, we have the MOU.
Just have a sample, don't they? You call it a sample.
Yeah.
It's certified,
Like the letter said, they'd send you one.
send it certified copy.
I'll second that. And then in the meantime, we can contact. I'll leave.
We'll check with some other counties, see what they're thinking about it. BLM.
You say Clay's in it too?
You second that?
Yes, sir. Did you say Clay County, Wichita County participated?
Well, I know Will Martin and Wichita Farm. I don't know about Clay.
Check the ticket.
Okay, we're gonna have that motion read, approve it. Notify BLM and Bureau of Indian Affairs, right?
Yes, sir.
Of interest to participate.
That's a very vague situation.
yeah, it could be.
All in favor?
Aye.
I am temporary, at least.
And so we're putting it the same.
Okay, consider item number 16. Consider interlocal agreement between Young County and Tallahassee County regarding body armor. This has to do with Jay Hutchins. Went to Tallahassee County a month or two ago, Young County. We had bought some, they had applied for a grant to acquire some body armor. I understand that body armor is kind of somewhat fitted to the individual. Jay went to Alabama County, so the auditor thought that we needed to have an interlocal agreement, needed one between the two of us
Yeah, I checked with the,
to
grant.
permanently loan that grant item or items to Alabama County. I've created this, we've sent this same document referencing Alabama County and their commissioners and judge to them. So there, I think it's on their agenda today. And they're executing the same, if I understand right. I think we're not supposed to send it anywhere, just keep hold of it. In case somebody comes to audit.
Audit.
Keep the money.
No, keep the
The agreement?
documentation that we did.
What if he had gone to Laredo?
We could have sent it down there as long as we have an interlocal.
What if he had quit?
We wouldn't have
It's all right.
hung it up in the closet.
Hope you hired another fat man.
Somewhat.
It is what it is.
Something like that.
You got that?
So this becomes their property
Hey,
as long as they want.
I'll call Jay that to his face anyway.
So this becomes,
That's what you do.
this becomes the officer's property?
I'm Jay, I said that.
It's the actual, it's the entity's property, and it'll go to Palapena County.
We just transferred it to them.
And if he leaves there, they will keep that.
So we have inventories of all this property?
Yes. Absolutely. If such times it wears out or he moves on or something like that, it would, more than likely, supposed to be returned to Young County.
And there's an expiration date, so.
I was going to say, there is an expiration, a 5-year expiration date on it, so once it expires, it's no good anyway. So
What happens to it?
I don't, we kind of hold ours.
Take a chance.
Yeah.
Better than that?
Right.
There you go.
Within that time frame, we will apply for another grant to replace.
I'll second that motion.
But we do reclaim it and put it back.
At first, yes. Now, again, Palapena will on this one because it was turned over them.
All in favor of interlocal permanently loaning certain body armor to Alabama County, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay. Discuss, consider items relating to the previous LEC notification. Mr. Wiley.
As everybody noticed, it's all gone. Filled in, moved up. I met with, David with the, natural gas. And, he considered and requested that there's 3 pipes sticking up there. Gas pipes sticking up. He was taking, remove all those back to the main line, which is right there in the driveway going up to the old jail, which is now the crisis center, and capping them off. I said, well, what if we decide someday they'll come back and put something here? And he said, well, if we did, I'd do that anyway. We'd come back with a more modern poly pipe instead of this iron pipe that's been in the ground for X amount of years. So I said, well, I'll bring it before the court. But it's in my opinion, if we did this, that would alleviate any kind of legalities or whatever might occur, because that's the only shut off right there that's above the ground right there where it is right now. But I think it would be in our best behalf, consideration to go ahead and let them do that at their expense. Do away with all that piping and everything, if they're doing anything, that take it off.
That's the gas company.
That's the gas company.
And I don't think it looks good with it sitting up, sticking out anyway.
What's that gas company's name?
Texas Gas.
It's Texas Gas or it's,
William Payne, they keep changing their
they
name.
keep changing.
Yeah.
Atmos is what they used to be.
Yeah.
It was Southern Union Gas, last time I had a recollection of it, they changed it.
I think it's Texas
But
Gas.
anyway, that's something, one of the things I think we need to do. The other thing is I think we need to go in there and plant some grass on that, get some grass established, and get that thing where it'll be a mud hole, get it back in shape.
Yeah, I don't think for a while that we should have anything on it until we get that ground settled, put some granite and let some granite on it. Cause there's so many holes and stuff like that, where it's gonna sink, yeah.
Got no cost to the county,
What's that?
no cost to the county.
For the gas.
What are we gonna take a jackhammer or anything like that, or they,
Whatever they do, they back it, dig it up and put it back in like it was. According to him. Whatever they tear up, they'll fix. That's their deal. Now, main line, it runs through there, it runs right there where that wall, that concrete wall is, going east, north to south. That's where the main line runs. It comes across over here. So, you're gonna get rid of all that stuff, you alleviate. Put the pipes coming across there, and take those other pipes down around, and just clean them all where they don't stick it. Be done.
I like it.
The other thing is what kind of grass we gonna put up?
Community grass, something that doesn't take much water.
Something that's drought tolerant. They make what's that, Zescu, what do they call that? It's like Bermuda grass and Holstein grass.
The agreement, it's,
It's best on it.
Best use of winter grass is growing hot weather very well.
Best
Best
view,
view, that
best
rest.
view. Best view. Anyway, we figure out something, I'll take care of that, We'll put the grass.
Do what you think's appropriate.
We can go from there.
Pray for rain for it to grow.
I did, have them leave the entrance coming off the curbing, so that when we do something, we have a place to run water up on the mowing. And also, I left the ramp over there, the handicap ramp, for more than one reason. One reason is that we didn't think a handicap did come, they did still come up that ramp. And number two, it's gonna leave a very big hole there when we do the concrete out right there with asphalt. I thought if there's anything we ever decided we needed to get rid of it at any time, we could do that ourselves.
Still use public handicap access to whatever ends up on that lot.
That's right. Other than that,
Got another bullet point down under there. I bet old Dale's here for that particular bullet point. Jim Single came maybe Friday. And Lions Club Carnival is coming down, I believe it's the last 3 days this month, and first 2 or 3 days next month. Is that right, old Dale?
Yes.
Come on up here. And they requested, use of that vacant lot. There's a ride or lumber cart or something that they can put on there. They think that they can get up on the lot in a fashion where they just use the sidewalk. They don't have to go out on vacant property.
I love the carnival coming here because I think it's good for ground. Right now, I don't know if I'd put anything heavy on that slide. I mean, if y'all seen how far those, piers went down, I mean, how soft is that gonna be right now? Until we get a rain, let it pack it down some.
you know, I understand maybe next year we could do that, probably a good time to do it, but right now, I wouldn't put nothing on.
If it's fresh like that, it'd be a little
I
scary.
think it's,
A lot
still
better.
unstable. We do it anyway, we said.
I mean, that's just fresh, right?
I wouldn't want to put the line plug in any kind of liability or us if we do something like that.
You have anything to say, Odell?
Well, I'm here by default to begin with.
But never know, you not have an idea, that's
Jim had to be in Dallas today, I believe it was. And the assistant carnival director had patients scheduled, so asked if I would come and see what you decided. Yes, the Lions Club supports a lot of activities in Graham. I don't know the condition of the soil. I don't know how soon you plan to grass it or whatever you plan to do with it. But I can't believe that our carnival people have been with us for several years. Can't believe that they would do any heavy damage that could not be corrected. And if they did, I would think that the Lions Club would be responsible for it. If that makes any difference to you.
I don't think it's the damage, I think it's, we're worried that it's gonna, I don't know.
It's not the damage part at all. It's just, that thing was dug out, those runners in there were over, up to 4 foot deep in that soil. And they come back in and fill that back in.
Not settling it.
And they haven't settled yet, and we hadn't had rain on it since they put all that back in. You know, after rain, you know, it settles about so much or whatever whenever you do that. And, they say they can just use the sidewalk, but there's gonna be kids and stuff get out and do there and run back and forth across there, first one thing you know. And anytime we have a problem, it's gonna rain. I guarantee that it's gonna rain.
I said, well, no, wasn't it?
Or a hailstorm.
Yeah, you said that.
Next year, I think we'd have established with grass will be on there and it's been settled and everything would be great.
Yeah, if you see grass the next couple of weeks, it's gonna be new grass on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't see it till after the carnival. The way people walking across there and everything else.
Odell, we're not saying no to the Lions Club, we're just saying it's just not a good time yet to use that lot.
I think it's more of a safety thing, Odell. It is anything else. I mean, we don't want nobody to get hurt.
Well, certainly we wouldn't want anyone to get hurt.
Right.
And I do not know the use that they would, what they would use this for myself. But they felt like it would be a help to us to have a little better carnival, have a little more space. But if that's not your wishes, then certainly we would not have the carnival put anything there.
Yeah, we're not trying to be fictitious, you know, or mean or anything else to it. We're just trying to be cautious of what's going on. You know, the front part of that, all that through the rest of that square, I don't see no problem doing it out through there. It's just right there. But,
That is, whatever y'all decide, that's what we live with.
Well, I'm a long time supporter of the Graham Lions Club and that carnival. It certainly needs the space, but
Yeah.
that place is just not ready for that kind of activity.
yeah.
Okay, court, I take no action on that.
No action.
You need to vote
No,
on
you don't have permission.
Do we need to vote on the gas deal or?
Well, if it doesn't cost the county.
I'm consideration part of this project.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I just need
Already in house.
blessing of the courts, we can go ahead and not let it go forward.
Appreciate the information. Yeah, did right doing that.
I don't know why there was any action necessary there.
Thank you for your time for coming.
And
We're not being mean, I promise.
I wish we were ready for something.
Yeah.
Okay, what about, burn restrictions? Just to go down that, I've had a couple of requests
Me too.
to the office to lift them. I don't know what you say you have to do.
I don't have a problem. We're asking the range
Yeah, I think we're gonna probably save more things. We can't
legislate good sense to our folks.
Yeah. We just need to stress when we lift it, please do not burn it. It's 900 mile an hour wind.
I think we've had some grass fire things with burn ban on.
Yeah.
Well, the fires we've had in the mine in the world is not because of somebody starting, it's the high winds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm good with lifting it.
I have no problem
Next
opening
meeting.
up a window and allow agricultural industry to work for a while as long as they're careful.
At least lift it till the next meeting, you know, you're See what happens.
You can go on like that motion.
I do.
Who's got the second?
You do. Don't you abstain? Don't do it.
Thanks, there's a fire.
I did that.
Well, I don't know why I didn't vote on it. I didn't vote on any other.
You're picking and choosing.
All in favor, lifting the burn restrictions? I'll concur.
All right.
I'm not telling anybody to go out and burn up.
I'm proud of you.
Did we skip 20?
Let's get 19.
19 and 20.
We'll skip
And
19 and
22.
20 so far. We want to continue with these, or we want to come back after lunch? What do you want to do?
I'm good with these.
I'm going to tell you that on the tower leaks, that's a thing that we can discuss in closed session, and I think probably right now it might be a good idea to do that. That we've normally been posting a closed session. However, the code authorizes a closed session on any item that a closed session is applicable to. But normal practice is that we post those, but I really think there's some things we probably ought to discuss with regard to acquisition of real property, either by purchase or by lease. It's applicable to that item. I think we've got to discuss it with him. There's some things we could answer. Public reporting.
Anybody have any? We're gonna do that, let's go ahead and handle the C-TERS thing, we'll come back and lunch into some executive session.
You want to see Thursday now?
I'll call it.
What do we have? Are you hungry? 40
I was
minutes.
hungry 40 minutes ago.
Well, as you know, I think I sent all the emails and all that where we were accepting.
First off, I want to congratulate this entire Commissioners Court for the work they did in getting this application approved. We had, I guess, no questions at all. August 2nd, Judge put the packet together very well.
And
Timely in your submission,
And
diligent in it,
you did good.
worked very well. It looks like we've even been awarded a little bit more money than we had asked. Yeah, what was it, about $80,000?
Yeah.
All goes to me.
All goes to you? Wrong. But we will use this to the betterment of the roads in Young County where it's appropriate to be used.
That was 600 and how many thousand?
22, I think.
622. Which causes,
No, 655, 214.
which causes Young County to have to ante up a little bit more on the match.
Consider we use it.
Yeah.
There's some more hoops that we're gonna have to jump through before we get it. Y'all read all that stuff?
Yeah. Believe it or not, I must do all that stuff. It seems to have been simplified fairly well. A little long amortization list, what have you, to get our money. If their turnaround time is anything like they promised it'll be, it shouldn't put too big a burden on the county's cash.
It's got to be pretty confusing right here. Back here.
I think there's some questions asked about the EPA.
Yes.
I think
I think that's gonna be only applicable if we're gonna acquire new
you're right away, yes, sir. It's all on the projects we're working on. Those studies won't be required.
That's one of the things that Bill talked about here. Section.
sure that's surprising some of the counties that were gonna do new road construction.
Yes. No, that was oversight on their part.
But you know, all in all, speaking, the whole process of this thing, you know, I think that all of us here at this table save the county anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 in doing the work ourselves. And we did it in a workmanlike manner, professionals.
You know, it's one of the deals. I'm glad we were ready for the purchase. Time it was due. And it gave us an opportunity to do some modifications. Or when it was due.
Sure. Anyway, once again, I thank y'all and congratulate you on your work. Make a big impact in this county. Chapel needed to be rebuilt.
Yeah, I didn't need you to have to the hard road. It's terrible. There it is.
Agree with you, sir?
We've got a resolution in here and an agreement. Here's the resolution order approving infrastructure grant program. Agreement designated authorized representative and making specific findings required by the Texas Department of Transportation. Y'all read all this? Yeah. Yes, sir, you're gonna have to modify your prioritized project list to include the additional funds that we've received. Or make those, we're gonna have to make those balance with our application.
Our application is well in excess of what they're allowing us under the grant, so.
Yeah.
Some of the counties just applied for what the initial grant amount was. Now if they're getting additional money, they're having to come back and modify. I don't know if that was
We need to modify the prioritized list or add to it. That's gonna be to the extent that we're going to receive $655,214.
Yeah, I think that we actually applied for $2.5 million, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, we did, but
this is for the additional amount. I'd ask for a clarification on that, because I don't think we're going to have to do that.
And we did, like I said, it's no big deal, Eric. Let's walk that out real quick. We're ready to go. Good, Jared.
Do his finger to the
I
top.
can. You the man.
But they're making sure that they didn't give the county money that they're going to say, well, you didn't ask for it to begin with, why should you want it now? But I think that when it comes to total, there was a little $2 billion worth of road projects, I think that was in it.
100 in the county, 100.
191 counties applied. Some didn't. And then there was 30 counties that had some sort of deficiency in their application. But the redistribution of funds, I guess I've seen the list of just how that went.
I guess they were proportionate share of that money that was left over to those 191, so I haven't seen the formulation either.
And that could increase too if they choose not.
Everybody didn't complete their project.
Well, we've got 3 years to do it.
I think there's gonna have to be a certification here for each project. all this has gotta go back in, we've gotta do a little modifying on it, it's all gotta go back in to text docs before we can make application for reimbursements. That's the agreement, resolution. I guess motion would be to authorize me to enter the agreement for Young County. And that any modifications that we have to make, I'll get, always need to get clarification on just what modifications, and then that'll be up to you commissioners on the project list. And then we'll have to certify each project, send certification in for each project, and I'm not sure if that transpires immediately or if that's along with the completion of the project or at the time that the reimbursement's filed. I've got a checklist in there, I thought it was in here, but it's not, did I say go in checklist?
I imagine all eyes will be done at T Cross, so we will be
I have no problem with giving you the authority to enter these agreements for the Commissioners Court as deemed by these papers we received from the text office.
How about this table issue until I got noon? Okay. So let me look at that checklist. It has some clarification that I thought was in here. But it-
Okay. I just thought we can reconvene.
2 o'clock.
I gotta leave by 3, so we're gonna.
Tommy? If y'all will just, authorize me to sign this, what's gonna be required of the commissioners. Read that number 3.
Yeah, well, it's just a USB transfer firmer.
No. I'm with that.
Mr. Court's gonna have to provide the project list and estimates to equal the total amount of the grant plus the county match.
We've done that. It's all on the application.
Well, Mike, you applied for a lot more than that, didn't you?
We applied for a lot more.
Yeah, we did.
What we got.
2 million.
We provide, we above our pay scale.
You know, we don't know what they were gonna give us. Because Jim said to do that in case that we got extra money.
But we're gonna have to go back and rework that project list and modify it to
For what?
equal what we've received plus our county commitment.
Just,
Well, but our amount is more than the county percent.
I know it. That's
Well, you
not-
said we have to back it down?
Yep, we're gonna have to.
I don't think so. That's not the way I read it.
Okay, here, did you get this, did I send you this email or did I?
It's probably so.
Well, no, read it.
That's it.
I don't see that one.
The email didn't look exactly like it. I Commissioner should copy it on to make this more.
If it doesn't say what I don't want to say, I don't read it.
Got one right there. Item number 3.
Hey, Mr. Sipes.
Uh-huh.
Do you need a soil stabilizer? You gonna plow anything up?
Yeah, I am gonna use it. So the silicate I've got. It's doing a pretty good job. I think it'll do great underneath the.
You're gonna need to hire a machine to plow that.
Yeah, I just showed Matt a zipper, 6-foot zipper. Cost of a zipper. I'd rather us all on the zipper than all on the brush bandit. Because let me tell you about those. When you get those soft spots in those paved roads, you can go across them with that zipper, dig that out, and then that pothole patching machine that we all already own makes a good patch right there in that road, and it fixes that road pretty
We'll
good.
use a heck out of that zipper. There's a lot of places that could use
A
it.
lot of stuff.
I can hire somebody to do my road today.
Really? The thing is, we can't work on a road in a day. I talked to Phil about renting a Bomag Caterpillar version of it, $5,000 a week, and I could do all the road I want to do. Problem is, we mix and pack and get a
You
road
got the
ready in a
manpower.
week. You know, in a week, and all my constituents are gonna be driving on roads that's been tore up.
How much is, Smith? Kirby Smith?
I don't know. Who is Curtis Smith? What is he?
Kirby Smith has.
Well, Kirby Smith,
The real place also, they're probably cheaper.
well, we can rent a Zephyr for $8,000 a month, which we could divide among all the precincts that have to have stuff tore up. You gonna zip up anything you got?
What that says to me in this deal, section 3, is each one of our projects that we do, whatever amount of money that you're gonna add to the monies that we get, like each one of us will get somewhere around 20,000 apiece. So we should be able to get whichever one, we wanna add 10,000 to one of the projects, 10,000 to the other, or all 20,000 to one of them. And that's what the revision part is, because they're gonna know exactly what it is that we're gonna get. They're gonna get an invoice on. So that's what they're gonna use to match up with when we send the invoices in. They better cover up exactly what that is, and our match will be there.
We're gonna receive a $655,214 grant. We've got to match it with $131,042.80.
That should read up to.
That's an increased funding of $77,685 grant funds and an increase in matching funds by $15,538.80. Because you take a fourth of that, that's $23,305 each.
Right. Increase what we already had. But I planned on almost $2 million worth.
So it sounds to me like what's gonna have to happen is this project list will need to be revised to display a total of $786,256.80.
Well, I think what we're saying is we need to take each project we're gonna do, we figured that one project. We're gonna put that extra money that we get on that one project, add it to that, and do it that way, and revise it, and each one of us, when we do it, it ends up being the same amount you're talking about, plus the.
Yeah, all we're gonna turn in is invoices as far as that account right there, even though we've got more than that on our list.
Commissioners Court should revise the project list and estimates to equal the total amount of the grant plus the county matching, plus the county match using the form received from TxDOT, which is
I kind of understand what he's saying, because.
That should really say equal to or greater than the total.
But I think what he's saying is the bottom number, or the equal, or what we gotta match is gonna be, we're gonna resend that.
What I say,
Yeah.
whatever we do, and our projects need to equal to what the money that they're gonna give.
But that completely goes against what Jim Allison told us we needed to do. In order to precipitate another release of monies from the next legislature, we need to make application for more than the grants so we can show them the need. We're gonna apply for more than we get.
we did that.
I think that's what we did when we did our
Right.
first application. But this right here, when we're fixing to start receiving the money back from the state, has to be more refined. And the fact, that way when they go to match,
They match.
they match up.
Right.
Yeah, I know what they told us when you start a project. Let's say you had $120,000 per project, and you decide to only spend $80,000 on the project, not complete, and move down to your project number 3 on the list.
You can do that.
You can do that. And then project number 7 on your list. Now, all these added together are a whole lot more money than you're gonna get.
Right.
But you can distribute that money, but you still made application and showing that you've got projects that total more than your grant money.
This informs TxDOT that you intend to begin work on these projects, and you will be submitting invoices for reimbursements on these projects. The project list may be revised as needed in the future if the project changes.
In other words, if you.
They told us that we could add a project.
In other words, if you're working on project 1, and you decide you're gonna move down to project 6,
Right.
then you'll revise that in there and say, we're gonna go to 6.
Move 6 up to number 2.
Number 2, that's right.
You don't have to have the project completed.
I think, what we've got to submit there is going.
The one thing they did ask us to do though is when we start the project, try to get a project that you can do. You may have to break it up into A, B, C, and D.
Right.
But try to get, if you say A, try to get it fixed where you got the money and enough money like to do project A done and finished.
Because if you're doing the base work on the road like we're planning on doing,
You're gonna take long.
and you've got something here in the county, a fire, a flood, whatever, that drop pulls us off of there, we may not be able to finish that. We may be able to do some smaller jobs in between.
I think your project, total projects are gonna have to come up and be $786,256.
Yeah, the problem with what you're reading there, it should have said Armour. Because I understood it to have said Armour.
Why don't we just?
But not less than what you were getting, because you're not gonna get it. You're gonna get what you applied for.
Why don't we table that and then just get a proper answer what we need?
When does that have to be done, sir?
I don't think there's
not
a time requirement there.
Okay.
And then just get an answer, then we'll just go back.
Don't bring me what you need me to submit, I mean, but it that.
Well, we did pretty good the first time. We got it done that way. We'll get a clarification in that. If you have to be right, Judge, I don't mind at all. Not saying a thing to you. No.
So
I'll tell you you're
let's
right.
put that back on the agenda for the next time. It's fine.
It doesn't need to be on the agenda, I don't think you'll.
Okay.
And get the paperwork to you.
Probably.
Once again, you did an excellent job getting that paperwork done, and the submission was great. And
We'll be in session, turn this on, we're in session now.
you only get that compliment on there.
I should have.
Yeah, you should.
Probably the first one.
I don't believe that's happening.
It's not a personal thing.
Now you've lost my train of thought.
There you go.
Somewhere. I do need authorization if the court finds in the court's best interest for me to be the designated person.
Once you're centralized, all of that kind of work, so.
Sign this stuff off and submit these forms, what have you,
I think that would be
unless you
fine.
want to do that.
No, son.
I think a member of the Commissioners Court needs to be, and
I think so too.
you're centralized, so
And he's more up on it than I am.
you may think that.
Okay. Have we adopted, we have not adopted the resolution.
We need to know that.
That's gonna be, this resolution right here, prepared by Jim Allison. It says, whereas Young County received notice, whereas Commissioners Court of Young County has determined that it is in the best interest, and whereas TxDOT created the County Transportation Infrastructure Program, now therefore, be it ordered Judge McCready that Young County designates Young County Judge John C. Bullock as representative and authorizes the county representative to sign all project-related documents on behalf of the county, including any certifications required by the grant program. And further ordered some other things with regard to signing the agreement.
If he signs it, it goes out. It's on him.
That the Commissioners Court of Young County, Texas makes all the findings, exercises discretion and authority extended to said Commissioners Court by Texas law, and such findings are made in accordance to that. Several other things. Y'all have that already?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's our choices?
Somebody else to do it?
You're doing just fine, Joe. You're doing fine.
That is a choice.
I compliment you just to get you to keep doing it.
Hey, you're always doing that to me. Yeah, I know.
Don't ever insult somebody doing something nice for you.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt the order designating the county representative and authorizing the grant agreement? Okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor of such motion? Then the county judge is the county representative to sign all the documents there. It's unanimous. Now, I believe that we're down to, y'all, is- whatever, y'all understand that prioritized, modified prioritized list is today.
I'll get clarification, send it to everybody.
Bring what I need to file.
What we'll do is get Slick over here.
Here.
He can,
We can call the birds. Good work.
he can sit down here with us like we did before when we changed our stuff up. And then do the fire department and that deal.
Sure.
Simplify.
Okay, now I believe that we're down to item number 19. This is an item, discussion, consideration, regular power lease before any consideration is made pursuant to 555.072 Government Code regarding exchange, purchase, or lease of real property. I want to declare